All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And boy, did my last video ruffle a lot of feathers. And people have to understand something about that last video. I do not believe that Superman is going to have a poop fetish in the Superman film. But you have to understand that that was not the point of that video. The point of that video is that James Gunn is all about James Gunn, and he does not care about other filmmakers. He does not care about other properties except what he does. And no sooner did I get that video published, and did he make my point in spades on Threads. And we're going to look at some of the stuff that he actually talked about. And I also want people to know that I got a lot of messages over the last couple of days that he has banned a lot of people on Twitter, okay? That they can't view his stuff anymore, that he's banned them. And I have a feeling that he has banned those individuals because they were attacking him personally and not professionally. And I told you I'm not going to go after him personally. And I talked about that in the video that I did where I said I don't trust James Gunn. That's the only time I'm going to be addressing that issue. And so I'm not going to go after him personally. He has not banned me, at least not yet. And I don't think it would be good if he banned somebody with a following like mine to begin with. But he will do whatever he wants to do. But let's take a look at some of the stuff I have grabbed over the last couple of days. Also, it is the Oscars, but I'm not watching the Oscars. I don't watch the Oscars, even though I love movies. I think the whole thing is sham, is all about identity politics and not about merit anymore. And it has become a joke, and people just don't care about the Oscars here in the United States anymore. It is a complete joke. So I am not watching it. I will report on what got Best Picture and everything tomorrow, but I'm not expecting anything amazing to come out of the Oscars. It's all a joke. But let's take a look at what I've grabbed. So the first picture I have here is My Time to Shine Hello posted this, and this was talked about everywhere. And they posted, I hear Gunn's Superman suit is going to look something like this. And I guess this is from Fortnite or one of those games as a skin that you can purchase. And James Gunn put his eyes up with a, frowny face kind of going down like, this is not real. And I don't expect the suit to look like this. Again, the symbol's not the same. I don't think the cape needs to come that far up. And also, I don't think they're going to do the suit going beyond the wrists of the hands. That's something that I believe started with the New 52, but I don't think that'll carry over. I still think he's going to have trunks, which I think need to go away. And I'm a little afraid. I'm right now in the middle of reading All-Star Superman, and the cape is just below his butt area, which I think is way too short. It needs to be more in line with this costume shows. But he's saying that, someone said James Gunn in response to the claim that the Superman suit looks like the Fortnite design. And it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case, but everybody was sharing this. Now, I had to bring this up. I put this on Twitter, and I called this a long time ago. So this is back from February 19th of last year. So this was just like 4 months after, I believe, Black Adam. Not even 4 months after Black Adam was released, if I'm not mistaken. And James Gunn said, I was hired to write Superman Legacy over 6 months ago. And he had already announced at this point about his slate moving forward. And I said, what the F? Over 6 months ago? I said, you can't be serious. You have just dug your own and Warner Brother Discovery's graves. You can't run a company like this and backstab the fans. You are disgusting. This is going to sabotage all the future films. And what happened after I posted this and they released the next 4 films? Aquaman was still barely, I don't even know if it made a profit. It still was nowhere near what it should have been, and everything else failed miserably. I said, you have got to be the dumbest CEO ever. And everything that happened, it's true, what I said. And I still think this is going to follow into the DCU. I don't think it's going to be the big hit they are expecting it to be. So someone posted this, and I thought it was very interesting. It says, so I'm rewatching all DC and right now up to Ayers' Suicide Squad. So I got 2 things to say. Leto's Joker reminds me of Heath's in the way that he is honestly unpredictable. we see an unhinged but also a pretty smart Joker, and it would have been great to see more. The second thing here is Margot Robbie feels like Harley, completely insane and deadly. When they are in the car and she says, Batsy, 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 you actually think she is Harley. Yeah, they did a great job with that. It sucks we didn't actually get to see Leto actually against Affleck's Batman. And didn't actually get to see this Joker and Harley for more than 5 minutes together. Totally agree. We do have David Ayers' cut, which I hope at some point does get released, but I am not holding my breath anymore. That is going to fall into one of the things we're going to look at here today. And here it is. David Ayer himself says, somebody asked him, will we ever see it? Meaning his cut of the Suicide Squad. Or are you just effing with us? David Ayer said, ain't my call. There's people who want it to remain buried and the narrative unchallenged. That's the game. Hollywood is a trip. So he is throwing shade at Warner Brothers, but doesn't want to do it in a way that's going to burn bridges in the future. And there are people down there, and I do believe James Gunn is definitely one of them, that does not want this movie to be released. Now, this is pretty crazy. This blew up my Twitter feed and blew up everything all over social media for the last couple of days. And I'm going to have some very important points I'm going to make about this. James Gunn says Peacemaker Season 1 is not canon to the DCU. Season 2 will take place after the events of Superman. There you have it, guys. This plays into my exact video that I made previous to this one. It's all about James Gunn. And what's disgusting about this is all of his characters from Peacemaker, and probably some from the Suicide Squad, and Viola Davis was part of that, are going to make it through his reboot, but nobody else is. So his characters are safe. Yeah, it's going to be a different universe, but in a different universe, if these characters all remain the same, why are all the other ones changing? It doesn't make any sense. I told you guys when this all started that it was all going to be about Gunn. This is the Gunn show, and people get sick of me talking about Gunn, but he is the head of DC. He is the guy who up to this point is writing and directing everything. And then he comes out and makes a statement like this after he told everybody you should probably still go watch Season 1. It's freaking a joke. And with these characters staying the same, there's no reason they couldn't have kept some of the other actors in the same roles as well. That would have done a lot to appease the audience, but all they're doing is pissing more people off. Now, this comes from James Gunn's wife, Jennifer Holland. Someone asked, serious question, is there going to be a Peacemaker Season 2? She wrote, yes, we start filming this summer. It's going to be so good. And James Gunn said, the source is kind of iffy, but this is true. John Cena shared this on Howard Stern probably last night or last week or whenever he was on. And so it is true that this will be filming this summer. And again, James Gunn wrote and directed that show too. He's doing everything. He is doing everything. Guys, everything. And when have we heard anything about the Batman 2? And when have we heard anything about the Penguin movie that is actually going to get released, or the Penguin show that's getting released this year? He's talking more about his stuff than the other stuff that DC has going on. It's all about James Gunn. And again, somebody says, James Gunn confirms the events of Superman will have a direct impact on Peacemaker 2. And he just simply answered yes to that question. Now, this is crazy. Someone said, but Peacemaker killed Flag and Augie. Still is. At James Gunn, I mean Peacemaker. What a joke. Should always be a part of him, especially that Harley and Flag Sr. would have been a sickly grunge on the jerk because of Flag Jr.'s murder. He said many strands will remain consistent, yes, insofar as Peacemaker's story goes. This doesn't make any sense, guys. This doesn't make any sense. If the first season is not canon and the stuff from the Suicide Squad is not canon, but they're going to pull some of the strands, but not all, none of this makes any freaking sense. Now, I laughed when I saw this. Somebody said, won't it be confusing having a season 2 of a different universe? Why not just have it be a new show? James Gunn said, because it's my favorite thing to do. Yeah, be him. It's the biggest original Max show ever, which is a lie. And I showed that in their reports. That is not a true statement. And he said, and I have a way in. It won't be confusing. It is now, but apparently won't be in the future. So let's talk about this. This is what's crazy about this whole thing. There is no other industry in the U.S. where you can fail spectacularly like James Gunn did with Suicide Squad or with Blue Beetle, because Blue Beetle is also going to continue forward. Blue Beetle is the worst performing DCEU movie that they ever released. Suicide Squad is right behind it. These are the 2 worst performing movies. And those are the characters that get to continue on. Think about that for a minute. And you have the guy who directed the Suicide Squad as the whole head of DC. I talked about this on Zod Writer's question and answer podcast that I was on last week. This is freaking crazy. You cannot fail like that. Think about that. He's now the head of DC. Now, I had so many people try to pile on me on Twitter and say, well, they were critically acclaimed shows. For the few people that saw it? Guys, you got to stop making the excuse that it was in the middle of a pandemic, at the height of the pandemic, day and date with HBO Max, because you had 2 ways to watch it. Go to the movies or watch it at home. And it had a big bump in the first week, and then it trailed off, and they don't even talk about it after that. And then nobody saw it at the theater. But there were other films that got released at the exact same time that did way better. Nobody cared about the Suicide Squad. They did not care. And it doesn't matter what the critics score. It doesn't matter what the audience score is, because it didn't make the studio any money, and that's what they care about. It didn't sell tickets. It didn't bring in the subs. It was a bomb all the way around. And that's the guy who's in charge. It's his stuff that gets to move forward. It's what he wants to move forward. He is taking the 2 worst performing properties from the DCU and moving them into the DCU. That makes no sense. None. You cannot make it make sense. You've got to stop talking about the pandemic. You got to stop talking about the streaming. It doesn't change the fact that the Suicide Squad lost Warner Brothers over $200 million. Back in my old job at Nabisco, when I worked there, I had a lot of customers that loved me. Did that make any iota of a difference when I had my reviews at the end of the year? And if my numbers weren't what they were supposed to be and it affected my raise and my performance and how I was viewed at the company? Doesn't matter what your customers think. It matters on what you perform for the company. And the fact is that Suicide Squad and Blue Beetle were the worst performing properties, and they're the ones that get to continue forward. You cannot make sense out of it. No matter what mental gymnastics you want to do, there is no my truth on that, okay? It's a fact. It is financially a fact. It is proven by the fact that they didn't talk about it at all in their investor calls or those reports where they talked about the streaming numbers. I've shown those on my channel or talked about them on my channel before. It is not what he says it was. It's not true. All right, guys, there's my DC update for the day. I'm going to continue to cover everything that happens and the comments that James Gunn makes. I just find this whole thing to be head-scratching and, quite frankly, annoying. All right, guys, so there's my update for the day. We will see you on the next one. Take care.